This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
We're working to connect a region of over 600 cultural bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. We're coming to you live from Manila and Vietnam. Hello, Charlene.
Hello, I am Charlene Navaja, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines.
This year,
Brunei's head of state, Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah, opened the Association of Southeast Asian Nations Summit as member nations Myanmar stayed out of this year's talks after its junta chief was banned from the event.
President Rodrigo Duterte emphasized the importance of defeating the coronavirus disease 2019 pandemic and settling the South China Sea dispute during the 38th and 39th ASEAN summits and related summits under the chairmanship of Brunei.
it is my hope that in the future we'll be able...
U.S. President Joe Biden announced plans to provide more than $100 million in new programs and initiatives to enhance our cooperation with ASEAN.
And U.S. President Joe Biden denounced the military coup and horrific violence in Myanmar at a summit with ASEAN leaders, the White House said.
First in our news, Brunei's head of state, Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah, opened the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN Summit yesterday, as member nation Myanmar stayed out of this year's talks after junta chief was banned from the event. Take a look.
This year, ASEAN has made good progress in advancing our community building efforts, while at the same time combating the COVID-19 pandemic. I look forward to hearing colleagues' views, which will guide us in identifying measures towards realizing the ASEAN Community Vision 2025. This year, we have made significant progress in strengthening our cooperation with external partners. Our work with them has greatly expanded, especially as we collectively address COVID-19 and prepare our community for the future. Through this, we have learned that the ASEAN-led processes continue to be the best way for us to effectively address issues of common concern. We must therefore ensure that the ASEAN regional architecture remains inclusive and relevant.
Brunei's head of state. Now, Myanmar's junta boycotted a Southeast Asian summit yesterday after its chief was banned from the event, deepening the regime's isolation 9 months after it took power in a coup. The virtual gathering kicked off 3 days of meetings hosted by the ASEAN with U.S. President Joe Biden as well as China's premier in attendance. Myanmar topped the agenda of Tuesday's talk.
...of all 1 billion of our people. Our partnership is essential in maintaining a free and open Indo-Pacific, which has been the foundation of our shared security and prosperity for many decades. And the United States strongly supports the ASEAN outlook and the Indo-Pacific on the Indo-Pacific and the rules-based regional order. Our continued cooperation is only growing more important, not less, more important, as we strive together to meet the challenges that are going to shape the 21st century, moving forward, tackling COVID-19 pandemic, taking on the climate crisis, strengthening our cyber defenses and producing new technologies, upholding freedom of the seas and commerce, and so much more. For me, the importance the United States places on our relationship with ASEAN You can expect to see us showing up, as Vice President Harris did with a recent trip to the region. You can expect to see me personally showing up and reaching out to you. You can expect to see the United States deepening our long-standing cooperation, pursuing new avenues of ministerial dialogue, investing in our countries and driving inclusive prosperity in this critical region. In fact, we intend to launch a new program and initiatives to enhance our cooperation across the range of issues, totaling more than $100 million. Our bottom line is that ASEAN is essential. I want to say that is essential to the regional architecture of the Indo-Pacific. And the United States is committed to ASEAN's centrality. You know, it's a linchpin. It's a linchpin for maintaining the resilience, the prosperity, and security of our shared region. And I want you to know I am truly looking forward to working with you to advance not only our many shared interests, but our shared values and shared vision for a region where every country can compete and succeed on a level playing field. And all nations, no matter how big or powerful, abide by the law. So I want to thank you all for this opportunity, and I look forward to this being the first of many meetings.
Now, U.S. President Joe Biden also denounced the military coup and horrific violence in Myanmar at a summit with the ASEAN leaders, according to the White House. Addressing the virtual summit, Biden expressed grave concerns about the military coup and horrific violence in Burma and called on the country's military regime to immediately end the violence, release those unjustly detained, and restore Burma's path to democracy, according to its statement. Myanmar's military government boycotted the ASEAN summit, which was hosted by Brunei after its chief was banned in response to the February power grab and subsequent deadly crackdown on dissent. The strongly worded White House statement came after Biden made public opening remarks to the ASEAN meeting in which he made a veiled reference to countering China but didn't mention Myanmar. Biden, who has held 2 phone calls with Chinese President Xi Jinping since becoming president and is also planning a virtual summit later this year, did not refer directly to Beijing. Meanwhile, President Duterte emphasized Tuesday the importance of defeating the coronavirus or COVID-19 pandemic and settling the South China Sea dispute during the 38th and 39th ASEAN summits and related summits under the chairmanship of Brunei. Take a look. Duterte made the remarks during his productive discussions with fellow Southeast Asian leaders, as well as the South Korean and Chinese leaders at the virtual opening of the 38th and 39th Summit, or ASEAN summits and related summits, according to the Office of the President in a press statement. Speaking at the 38th ASEAN summit, President Duterte stressed that ASEAN's road to recovery from COVID-19 will be long and difficult as the region is still reeling from the impact of the pandemic. The president, the palace said, emphasized the need to ensure the phased and comprehensive implementation of the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework, which contains initiatives and strategies that will help the region recover from the crisis. He also called for the immediate establishment of the ASEAN Center on Public Health Emergencies and Emerging Diseases that will serve as ASEAN's hub to strengthen its capabilities to prepare for, prevent, detect, and respond to public health emergencies and emerging diseases. Duterte, in his intervention at the 24th ASEAN-China Summit, also said the dynamic ASEAN-China cooperation would help both sides combat the COVID-19 pandemic, address climate change, and manage geopolitical issues. He also thanked China for supporting ASEAN's pandemic response, particularly by making life-saving vaccines global public goods, according to the Office of the President. During the summit, the President also renewed his call on his fellow ASEAN leaders to stay united in pursuing peace, stability, and prosperity in the South China Sea in accordance with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, and the 2016 Arbitral Award.
Meanwhile, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison affirmed his country's support for ASEAN in an online speech Monday, speaking about the way forward for dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. Let's take a look.
ASEAN is a long-time valued partner of Australia. Our futures are intertwined. Your growth underpins our prosperity. Your stability is fundamental to our own. And our enduring relationship is critical to an open, inclusive and resilient Indo-Pacific region. The COVID-19 pandemic has reminded us of what we can achieve when we work together. We all know that the way forward from here is vaccines. Access to safe and effective vaccines is the highest priority for Indo-Pacific nations. Together with our Quad partners, the United States, India and Japan, we have pledged to donate at least 1.2 billion vaccines doses globally. And Australia has committed 60 million doses to the Indo-Pacific by the end of 2022. We all want our economies to rebound strongly from COVID-19, and we all know that this can be accelerated through trade and investment under an open, rules-based international system. This makes agreements such as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership and the Comprehensive and Progressive Agreement for the Trans-Pacific Partnership more important than ever.
He said Australia has committed $21 million to support the establishment of the ASEAN Centre for Public Health Emergencies and Emerging Diseases. He also added that they are also combating vaccine misinformation, training health workers, providing much-needed medical equipment and expertise across Southeast Asia. These investments are an addition to the $500 million to support new security, economic and development cooperation with Southeast Asia, which he announced at the ASEAN-Australian Summit last year. He also said they're working towards safely restoring international travel, which will be vital for reinvigorating all economies. ASEAN needs to pursue an inclusive, integrated, flexible, and whole-of-community approach in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic, having the people and businesses at the center of these efforts so as to actively overcome pandemic-induced hardships in the spirit of harmonizing interest and sharing risk. Vietnamese Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh made the statement at the 38th ASEAN Summit, which was held in virtual format on Tuesday morning. Pham stressed that it is time for ASEAN to shift to a new strategy, safely adapting and flexibly responding to circumstances and effectively containing COVID-19 while fostering recovery. To this end, it is necessary to enhance efficiency of coordination mechanisms, improve capacity of health systems, and ensure self-reliance on vaccines and medications, and raise people awareness. And on the occasion, Prime Minister Pham announced Vietnam's list of earmarked medical supplies worth of millions of US dollars to the ASEAN Regional Reserve of Medical Supplies. Pham also suggested that ASEAN should position itself in the context of balancing and reshaping political, economic relations in the world. ASEAN must consolidate its role as the core of multi-layered processes for multilateral dialogue, cooperation, and economic integration in the region.
Meanwhile, the Philippines is expected to demonstrate leadership in the upcoming UN Climate Change Conference, or COP26, by calling for actions that would help achieve global goals. Take a look. The COP26, which was supposed to be held in November last year, will be hosted by the United Kingdom in partnership with Italy from October 31 to November 12 in the Scottish Event Campus in Glasgow. We are optimistic that the Philippines will demonstrate its leadership at COP26 on a number of calls for action that will halt deforestation, conserve biodiversity, maintain functional ecosystem services, and capitalize on the opportunities offered by the transition to clean energy sources, particularly renewable energy, according to UK Ambassador Lord Buffels in a briefing on Tuesday. The Philippines is ranked 118th in the recent Notre Dame Global Adaptation Initiative Index, which summarizes a country's vulnerability to climate change and other global challenges in combination with its readiness to improve resilience. As part of its commitment to the Paris Agreement, the Philippines submitted this year its nationally determined contribution to slash by 75% its emission by 2030, a development welcomed by the United Kingdom. Meanwhile, hundreds of families from 4 villages around Mayon Volcano in Albay Province on the Philippines' most populous island of Luzon are waiting for new homes after Typhoon Goni pounded the region last November. Now, among them is food vendor Florivic Baldoza, who still lives in an evacuation center. As global warming brings increasingly extreme weather, she now fears nowhere is safe. Take a look.
Bagyong Role, ito na po yung pinakamatinding naranasan ko po sa aking buhay. Nung magsimula po nung nagkapamilya po ako, yan na po ang pinakamalakas na naranasan ko dito na hindi naman po namin nakakalain na ganun talaga sa dito yung tubig. Tapos yung mga batong napakalaki, mga nagliliparang mga yero. Sir, kung para sa akin, sa sarili ko, sir, wala na. Wala nang, kumbaga parang wala nang safe. Kung para sa akin, wala na, sir. Kasi lahat ng pupuntahan naming lugar, may napapalibutan ng tubig. Isa pa, yung lilipatan naming lugar din doon. Kumbaga pag malakas din daw ang bagyo, tinutubig. Tapos siyempre, yung mga puno, pag iniisip ko lang, sir, yung kapakanan ng mga anak ko.
Because the typhoon is influenced by the climate change. So as I mentioned, we expect more frequency, more intense typhoon, as we can see in terms of the wind velocity, the amount of rainfall. So all of these influence the economic condition of Albay, again being an agricultural province.
Ko nito, pag once na lumipat kami dito, papablessingan ko itong bahay. Kasi para swerte, blessing.
Asia suffered its hottest year on the record in 2020, the United Nations said Tuesday ahead of the COP26 summit, with extreme weather taking a heavy toll on the continent's development. In its annual State of the Climate in Asia report, the UN World Meteorological Organization said every part of the region had been affected. The WMO said extreme weather and climate change impacts across Asia in 2020 caused the loss of life of thousands of people, displaced millions of others, and caused hundreds of billions of dollars, while wreaking heavy toll on infrastructure and ecosystems. Sustainable development is threatened with food and water insecurity, health risk, and environmental degradation on the rise. Increased heat and humidity are forecast to lead to an effective loss of outdoor working hours across the continent, with a potential cost of many billions of dollars.
And the news continues here on ASEAN in Focus. Charlene and I will be back right after this.
Makabuluhang talakayan.
Sapat na po ba yun? Papasok yung 30% sa indoor at 50% sa outdoor para to even break even?
Ilan pong mga negosyo ang nagsara po dahil dito po sa pandemya?
Malalim na komentaryo.
Ngayon, sinasabi essential goods and services. Pero nakita naman po natin sa Dolomite Beach. At may time clock yung mga bata doon.
Umaapaw sa impormasyon.
Ano ba ngayon ang allotted budget per voter?
Yung hindi daw bakunado po ng mga empleyado, hindi sila pinapasweldo. Oras!
Pero hindi rin nagpapahuli sa kakulitan.
Merong nag-file for the presidency. Hinimok daw siya ng mga alien at ang kanyang plataforma po ay palakasin ang Wi-Fi.
At ito si Ali magde-demonstrate paano mag-swimming na may face mask.
Kaya, nood na kina Ali Soto at Pati Daza sa ASPN. Ano sa palagay nyo?
Kung kayo po ay may pinagdadaanan, daanan nyo lang. Huwag niyong tambayan.
Lunes hanggang Biyernes, alas 8 hanggang alas 10 ng umaga.
Oras, alas 9:26 na po ng umaga at nagbabalik po ang ASPN.
Mapapanood sa Net25 at mapapakinggan sa DZEC, Radyo Aguila at Eagle FM 95.5.
Welcome back. Ousted Myanmar leader Aung San Suu Kyi testified for the first time in a junta court Tuesday, 4 months after being put on trial by a military. This is according to a source with knowledge of the case telling AFP. Take a look. The source said on Tuesday she gave her statement at the court by herself in response to charges of incitement related to 2 February statements criticizing the coup. The contents of her testimony cannot be revealed until the court has certified them, according to the source, adding this was expected next week. Media have been barred from attending Suu Kyi's trial at the special court in the military-built capital Naypyidaw, and the junta recently banned her legal team from speaking to the media. Before the ban, her lawyer said the Nobel laureate, 76 years old, will not call any defense witnesses at her incitement trial and she will represent herself. Suu Kyi went on trial in June, 4 months after she was taken into custody, and faces a raft of charges that could see her jailed for decades.
Let's find out the latest coronavirus news in Malaysia. Joining us live is Alfred Balmas. Alfred?
Hi, Charlene. Good afternoon. According to Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob, Malaysia will continue to call for a fair, affordable, accessible, and equitable COVID-19 vaccine rollout. The Prime Minister also commented the United States pledge at the recent Global COVID-19 Summit to donate additional 500 million doses of Pfizer vaccines to lower-income countries by 2022. Vaccinations have proven to be the most viable tool to achieve this end. He said in his intervention at the virtual ASEAN United States Summit on Tuesday, October 26, that this will greatly assist ASEAN members states in speeding up their national vaccination drives. Ismail Sabri added that the ASEAN and the United States should swiftly develop initiatives to support the strengthening the region's digital infrastructure and transformation. He added that the adoption of the ASEAN-United States leaders' statement on digital development and ASEAN consolidated strategy on the fourth industrial revolution today is timely. The Prime Minister said there is a need to bridge the digital gap by ensuring a level playing field and pursuing a socio-economic recovery and prosperity. According to him, Malaysia is ready to support the effort through its My Digital program and Malaysia Digital Economy Blueprint 2021 to 2030. Ismail Sabri also said that the enhanced digital transformation should come along with strengthening cybersecurity. Cybersecurity Malaysia, an agency under the Ministry of Communication and Multimedia, will be organizing the ASEAN Digital Security, Professional Development, and Lifelong Learning Program. He adding that the aims development capacity building and knowledge transfer for digital security. Meanwhile, Malaysia recorded 5,726 new COVID-19 cases, the Health Ministry reported on Tuesday, October 26. Health Director General Tan Sri Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said of the total 98.3%, 5,629 cases of them are mild and asymptomatic infections. Another 97 cases or 1.7 are category 8 patients in the country are on ventilator support. The Health Ministry also identified 7 new infection clusters in the country. These include 5 workplace outbreaks found in Johor, Kedah, Melaka, and Perak. There is 1 community cluster in Sabah and 1 outbreak at the Higher Learning Institute and Negiri Sibilan. To date, there are 506 active clusters nationwide. Back to you, Charlene.
Thank you so much for your updates, Alfred. You stay safe out there.
Likewise, live reporting here from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. This is Alfred Balmes. We live in interesting times.
And from Malaysia, we go now to Singapore. Singapore will allow quarantine-free entry for vaccinated travelers from Australia and Switzerland from next month, according to officials, adding to a list of 10 other countries, including the United States and several other European nations. The business hub is easing travel curbs and shifting a strategy of living with COVID-19 to revive its economy despite suffering its worst coronavirus wave yet, with the healthcare system under strain. Starting November 8, fully vaccinated travelers from Switzerland and Australia who test negative for COVID before they depart and when they arrive will be able to bypass quarantine. Business travelers and students from Singapore are expected to be able to travel to Australia under the initiative once Canberra finalizes arrangements. Australia's borders have been largely closed for the last 19 months to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Although Prime Minister Scott Morrison said this month that the country will begin to reopen them in November. The expansion of the scheme will allow up to 4,000 people to enter Singapore daily through the travel lanes, an increase of 1,000 from current numbers. South Korea is also due to be added to the initiative from November 15. Singapore still has some curbs in place, but its leaders have so far refused to impose a tough lockdown, with 84% of the population fully vaccinated.
The National Task Force, or NTF, against COVID-19 is eyeing a November start for the administration of COVID-19 vaccine booster shots to priority sectors. The Department of Health, or DOH, has approved the provision of booster shots to fully vaccinated healthcare workers, or A1, who are the first to receive the jabs in March. Senior citizens, or A2, and immunocompromised adults, or A3, will also be prioritized. Let's take a look.
Kanilang opinion at saka positive opinion ang EDSTAC at ang ating all-expert group para pag-start na po tayo ng boosters sa ating mga healthcare workers. Ito po, alam po ni Senator Bongo na marami pong mga ospital ang humihingi po ng tulong sa kanya para magkaroon na po ng boosters ang ating mga healthcare workers. At ito po ay yung inapruban na po ni Sec Duque na magkaroon na po tayo ng boosters para sa healthcare workers. Pero kailangan po na lang natin i-amend yung ating tinatawag na emergency use authorization para maging third dose na po yung ating mga gagamitin sa mga bakuna. So, tinignan po namin, ang pinaka-priorities po natin, yung healthcare workers at saka immunocompromised and then the elderly. And then ang supply requirement po, and at saka yung secure doses po natin. Sa healthcare workers, we will allot more or less 2 million doses. And we have enough doses for them. Regardless of brand, meron po tayo na nakatabi. And then for the immune-compromised and elderly, we will be requiring 5 million. And we have also enough doses with the succeeding deliveries. Ang ngayon po, ang ginagawa po ngayon, nakausap po si Yusek Bergere, DOH will process the amendments of the EUA of the different brands that will be used for the different tinatawag natin mga doses. At yun po, pinag-aaralan nila, we will wait for the announcement of the all-expert group kung pwede yung tinatawag na heterologous or tinatawag na homologous na vaccination. Ibig sabihin, kung Sinovac po ang naging first 2 dose nyo, pwede kang turukan ng Pfizer or Moderna. Or AstraZeneca, pwede ka pong tusukan ng Pfizer. So yung final guidance with the WHO SAGE, inintay po natin po yun.
Okay ka na?
Foreign tourists will soon roam Cambodia's ancient Angkor Wat place once again after officials on Tuesday flagged a partial reopening to vaccinated travelers. The coronavirus pandemic and travel restrictions put the brakes on Cambodia's burgeoning tourism industry. Revenue plummeted to $1 billion last year, down from nearly $5 billion in 2019 when the country attracted 6.6 million visitors. The Cambodian Tourism Ministry on Tuesday announced a November 30 reopening for popular beach spots, Chinangville and the island of Korong, as well as Dara Sakor, a Chinese-developed resort zone. The northern city of Siem Reap, gateway to the World Heritage-listed Angkor Wat complex, will be added to the kingdom's hotel quarantine-free travel scheme by January. Foreign travelers will require certificates showing they have been double vaccinated, health insurance covering treatment for COVID-19, and negative swab tests prior to departure and upon arrival in the country. Tourists must remain for a minimum of 5 days at the pilot locations and undergo a further swab test before being allowed to explore other parts of Cambodia. Cambodia's tourism reboot has taken some inspiration from neighboring Thailand's Phuket Sandbox Hotel Quarantine-Free Travel Scheme, which kicked off in July, attracting more than 56,000 international arrivals to the island.
To Thailand now, where hotels, street food carts, and tuk-tuks are gearing up for the return of tourists to Bangkok as Thailand prepares to reopen on November 1st to fully vaccinated visitors after 18 months of COVID travel curbs. But the steaming metropolis, the world's most visited city before the pandemic, will take some time to get back to its old self, industry experts said. The coronavirus pandemic sent visitors numbers plummeting from 40 million in 2019 to just 73,000 in the first 8 months of 2021, leaving its tourism-reliant economy registering its worst performance in over 2 decades. Beginning November 1, fully vaccinated travelers from 46 countries and territories that Thailand deems low risk will be allowed to enter without going through quarantine. The giants on the list are China, which accounted for the lion's share of the kingdom's pre-pandemic visitor total, and its territory, Hong Kong, as well as the United States, Britain, and France. A slew of other European countries are on the list too, such as Germany, Spain, and Italy, while some Asian neighbors, Malaysia, Cambodia, Singapore, and Japan are also included. All travelers must have a negative COVID test before flying into Thailand and get retested upon arrival. They must also book a single night in a government-approved hotel as they wait for the test results. Authorities expect 1 million tourists to touch down in Thailand by March 2022.
Back here in this country, additional crowd control measures are in place for Manila-based Dolomite Beach to prevent a possible spread of COVID-19 while enabling the conduct of maintenance and other works. The beach has been attracting throngs of people since it reopened this month, raising concerns that the crowd may facilitate COVID-19 spread due to a lack of physical distancing, which is among the minimum health standards by the government. Let's listen in.
Expected mo ngayon na kapag pinagbawal mo yung bata rito, even the guardians themselves hindi na pupunta muna yan. More than 40%, no? Yung nabawas na taong pumupunta rito.
Wasan na natin ang crowded area. Kung do not let one event sa mukha ng Dolomite na masira naman lahat ng pinaghandaan ng mga mayors ng IATF.
So to address the situation, there is a temporary ban on minors to enter Dolomite Beach, as this restriction, consistent with COVID-19 protocols of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases. Children below 12 years old will not be allowed to enter the area. And to observe social distancing, a rotational or cinema approach will be adopted, where visitors will only be given about 2 hours to stay in the site before they're asked to leave to give way to the next batch. DENR is optimistic such measures will significantly reduce the number of people flocking there.
Activists told AFP that Facebook in Vietnam has turned into a propaganda tool of the country's authoritarian government after a report said CEO Mark Zuckerberg had personally signed off on a push from Hanoi to limit anti-state posts. The social networking giant has in recent years been a popular forum for activists in the communist nation where all independent media is banned. But officials have begun to come under fire for targeting critics on the platform. Facebook has maltreated activists while eliminating free speech, turning itself into a media tool for the Communist Party of Vietnam, said Huỳnh Ngọc Chanh, one of Vietnam's most influential bloggers who focuses on democracy and human rights issues. Facebook already said last year that it was blocking content deemed illegal by authorities. But the Washington Post reported Zuckerberg personally made the decision to agree to Hanoi's demands rather than risk getting knocked offline in one of its most important Asian markets. Asked by AFP about the report, a Facebook spokesperson declined to comment. However, they said that the social media giant had restricted some content in Vietnam to help ensure our services remain available for millions of people who rely on them every day. More than 53 million people use Facebook in Vietnam, accounting for over half the population. And ASEAN in Focus, we'll be right back.
Let's go! Samut-saring mga videos ang ating nakikita. Iba't ibang eksena lalo na sa social media. May nakakalokang video, may nakakatawang video, may nakakamanghang video. Sa finest na kaboy video, may nakakaaliw na video, may pang-asar na video, may trending at viral video. Sa finest na kaboy video. Video.
Innovation, digital disruption, globalization. Startups Micro, small, and medium enterprises, as well as large corporations, all face interesting challenges in the market today. Peek into the world of exciting opportunities and partnerships to drive growth with the latest business news and information. We are open for business. Your weekly dose of entrepreneurial inspiration to update you on the latest developments in the world of business. Get up close and personal with CEOs and thought leaders to help you discover valuable insights. Sharpen your instincts for smart decision-making with the latest markets and economic trends, disruptive ideas, global innovation, social entrepreneurship, and other leading-edge business ideas. Join the conversations to create a more vibrant environment for entrepreneurship. Catch Open for Business, from vision to action.
Welcome back. President Duterte has welcomed the release of 1 billion peso subsidy to at least 178,000 utility vehicle drivers bearing the brunt of the surging global fuel prices, according to Malacanang. Duterte's office, Secretary Harry Roque said, is optimistic that the distribution of cash assistance to the transport sector will be completed within the year. Take a look.
Drivers. Kumpiyansa kami na maipamamahagi sa nalalabing buwan ng taon ang 1 billion fuel subsidy sa ilalim ng Pantawid Pasabot Program ng Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, LTFRB, ng Department of Transportation, kung saan ang Land Bank ang magdidistribute diretso sa cash cards na inisyu sa mga driver. Ayon kay LTFRB Chairman Delgra, magpupulong sila ngayon araw kasama ang Land Bank sa bagay na ito. At dagdag pa ng LTFRB, kailangan nilang munang ayusin ang mga dokumento. Di man po natin maiwasan ang pagtaas ng presyo ng gasolina at langis, iniibsa naman po natin ang kahirapan, lalong-lalo na yung mga naghahanap buhay sa sektor ng transportasyon.
Now, the move came as global oil prices continue to soar over $80 per barrel, affecting domestic fuel prices. Secretary Roque said the government is committed to help drivers hurting from the oil hike. As of October 26, gasoline and diesel prices have jumped by around 1 peso and 15 centavos per liter and 45 centavos per liter, respectively.
DTI announced on Tuesday that Manila and Seoul have concluded talks on the Philippine-Korea Free Trade Agreement, which they expect to sign before February 2022. In a Business Mirror report, it said that in less than a decade, Philippine bananas and canned pineapples may enter South Korea at zero duty, according to the Department of Trade and Industry. Trade Secretary Roman M. Lopez told reporters that Philippine bananas will start enjoying zero tariffs when entering Korea in 5 years, while canned pineapples will see zero duty in 7 years. The recently concluded FTA with South Korea augurs goes well for Filipino farmers, particularly those planting banana, because this will give them duty-free market access over a 5-year period from the current 30% tariff that will be gradually reduced by 6% percentage points every year, starting in 2022, down to zero on the 5th year or 2026.
Meanwhile, ASEAN's new framework for the circular economy for the ASEAN Economic Community provides a pathway for the region's transition to a low-carbon economy. Let's watch this.
Resource consumption globally has tripled since 1970 and could double again by 2050 if we continue business as usual. ASEAN's economic resilience is increasingly threatened by resource depletion, environmental degradation, unsustainable consumption, and climate change. Working towards a circular economy can help us address 45% of global greenhouse gas emissions, as well as offering a $4.5 trillion economic opportunity to the world. This has become an imperative for ASEAN, where consumption is growing rapidly. ASEAN needs to adopt an economic model that looks beyond the linear take, make, and dispose process, and make the transition towards a circular approach that is regenerative by design and makes effective use of materials and energy to retain their value. A circular economy thus increases competitiveness for ASEAN businesses, enhances innovation, and promotes green jobs, while reducing environmental pressures. Many businesses have already benefited from the circular approach, improving customer satisfaction, reducing resource and energy use, reducing costs of waste, enhancing brand and image, fostering longer customer relationships, and increasing sales. ASEAN's new framework for the circular economy for the ASEAN Economic Community provides a pathway for the region's transition to a circular economy based on 6 guiding principles. It sets out an ambitious long-term vision that builds on the strengths of existing ASEAN initiatives. The framework for the circular economy delivers inclusive social and sustainable economic growth while increasing resilience for the region. But its implementation is a whole-of-community effort and requires participation from everyone, the public and private sectors as well as the consumers. Visit ASEAN.org for more information.
And that's it. Thank you, Charlene, for keeping me company today here in ASEAN in Focus.
Thank you also, Alma, and advance happy birthday to Mr. Armando Corcuera here in Hanoi. And that's the latest news in the ASEAN region. Thank you for joining us today here in ASEAN in Focus. This is Charlene Navaja from your Vietnam Bureau, and we live in interesting times.
And we'll see you back tomorrow, same time, same place. You're in ASEAN in Focus. I'm Alma Angeles. We live in interesting times.
We know that this is a scary time for all of us.
The coronavirus is changing the world.
Changing our lives.
So please, take care of yourself.
Keep your distance.
Wash your hands.
And if you can, stay at home.
We at DW
are here for you.
We are working tirelessly to keep you informed on all of our platforms.
We're all in this together.
And together,
we'll make it through.
Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Stay safe.
Please, stay safe.
At may tuto pa rin akong isang letter sender request ngayong linggo sa Letters and Music 1 to 2 p.m. dito lamang sa Net 25. See ya!
Naririnig mo ba ang bulong ng puso ko?
Totoo ang kasabihang may pera sa basura, lalo na kung magagawa ang iba't ibang bagay mula sa mga recyclable material na inaakala ng iba na itatapon na. May ilang barangay sa bansa ang nagre-recycle ng basura at makikita ang iba't ibang bagay na gawa sa basura. Mga dekorasyon sa bahay, sa mga proyektong ito, nagiging malinis ang kapaligiran bukod sa mayroon pang pagkakakitaan.
This program is rated PG. It contains themes and scenes which may not be suitable for very young audiences. Parental guidance is advised.
Welcome mga mahal namong magtatanaw ni ining programa nga gidalit kaninyo sa Iglesia ni Cristo, Reconnect, an Evangelical Mission. Kumusta namo ang among mga igsuon ug mga higala nga anaa sa Visayas ug Mindanao ug mauusab sa mga anaa sa nagkalain-laing dapit nga nakasabot ni ining pinulungan. Una nato pagasugdan ang pagtuon sa mga pulong sa Ginoong Dios. Tan-awon una ninyo kini.
Maayong adlaw kaninyo. Sa ngalan sa Iglesia ni Cristo, nagpasalamat kami kaninyo, mga mahal namong kababayan, sa inyong pagtugot sa pagpanapit sa among mga igsuon nga tambungan ang inguni-ining mga aktibidad. Una namo ialagad kaninyo ang mga pulong sa Ginoong Dios. Buot una namo nga ipaila kaninyo kung unsa kining Iglesia ni Cristo nga nagaalagad kaninyo karon. Ang Iglesia ni Cristo, usa ka iglesia sa iyang kaugalingon, ug walay kalabtanan sa ubang pangpundok sa mga relihiyon. Dili kini usa ka denominasyon o sekta, kundi usa ka iglesia para sa tanang tao, nga buot mosanong sa tawag sa Dios ug mugakos sa matuod nga pagtuo, bisan unsa pa iyang kaliwat, nasyonalidad, kultura, kahimtang sa katilingban, matang sa panginabuhian ug nakabot sa pag-eskwela